Hello, hello from wherever you are tuned in, watching this beautiful Saturday. It's freezing cold here in the city of Massachusetts in the USA. And we hope that wherever you are watching from, that all is well. This is Uganda at Crossroads, and my name is Moses Mukitale. And we are looking at Uganda. We are putting a spotlight onto our country now after the election, the aftermath of the election. We are looking forward to the swearing-in ceremony of the president who won the election, Mr. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. But so much is going on, including a petition that is being filed by the National Unity Platform, which actually was denied, not received today, but has been pushed to Monday. So Monday is when that petition against the election results from the National Unity Platform is going to be filed. So we will see what happens. We shall be talking about that. But also today we are honored. We shall be later on getting to hear from Mr. Herman Aienebyona, who was in Uganda recently arrested, with so many of what the scandals going on in Uganda among the people that were arrested. But we thank God that he was released and is finally back. The U.S. is going to be joining us later on the show to tell us what exactly transpired, what happened, and and how has it been, until he got here. And also we shall be looking at so many other things to do with the U-vote. The talk is still going on, that all the indications show that the results that were declared by the Electoral Commission in Uganda were not the same that were on other platforms. So who is right and who is wrong? We're going to be looking at that. With me right now is Kapalaga in the studio. We're going to be starting off with him, and then later on we shall be joined by Herman Aienebyona, the NUP Diaspora Coordinator, who will be joining us later on the show. Mr. Kapalaga, yes, it's an honor as always to have you.
Thank you.
I always want to introduce you by your name, but I find myself going by your alias. But please introduce yourself to our viewers, and we shall start the show.
Yeah, I first of all want to say you're smart in that Italian code.
Thank you,
I greet you, comrades, fellow Ugandans. My name is Michael Kakande, also known as Kapalaga Bebe. I'm an artist, but most importantly, I'm a Ugandan. And that's why I decided to take part in the governance of my country.
I mean, so as always, and our viewers are eager to hear from what is going on. The last time you were here, there were a series of protests that were going on. There was one in Canada, there was one in the USA here, and there was marches done, in New York and all over the world. Are the protests still going on in regards to the election aftermath, or we are done now with that phase?
Well, first of all, you must know why there were protests, or why there should be protests. Uganda has been in captivity for the last close to 60 years. Ever since 1962, we've never had a peaceful transition of power. From the first president, Sir Edward Mutesa, he was bombed out by Obote. Obote was bombed out. I mean, there was a coup by Amin. And the story continues, and here we are. This time around, we've had people, I think this time they've been so more assertive than any other time. I mean, myself, I haven't been involved in any political activity before. And so many people are like me, I believe. And now that we, as the youth of the country, decided to take part of what is happening in our country, people massively came out and voted. People wanted the world to hear their voice. And indeed, the world heard the voice of Ugandans. And Ugandans said they are tired of President Museveni and his comrades. The world said that the Ugandans said they want a new president. Just for the record, ever since we came into politics, we managed to increase the voters on the register, and we increased by, I think, like 3 million. So what the NRM did, they brought the military around the city, the choppers hovering around, and that is on the eve of elections. But people said, whatever you bring, we are still going to vote. And people turned out in very large numbers, and they voted. And yes, they voted for Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Now, we definitely knew that Byabagama is under the courts of President Museveni, because he's the one who appoints him. President Museveni, just during the process, just came to the Electoral Commission and chased Rakwojo, the Secretary General, and the likes, because apparently they failed to see Noop coming. And well, that is a candidate chasing the General Secretary. And in an organization, it's the General Secretary who actually does the administration work. But nevertheless, people still came out and voted. And they voted so massively for Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. But Justice Byabakama, I am sure you've seen videos when he's given what to read. And because in one of the videos, because he had not rehearsed, you can clearly see him asking the person who is giving him what to read, what the figures are. So it is only in Uganda where they first announce the winner before they count the votes. You understand? So they announced the winner, President Museveni. They awarded him a percentage. They awarded all of the other candidates percentages, and then they started counting votes. That happens only in Uganda. So the protests, the worldwide protests, speak to that. People believe Ugandans spoke out, and Ugandans voted out President Museveni and his team. But President Museveni and Justice Byabakama rigged and announced themselves. That is why we've had several protests around the world: Denmark, Japan, UK, US, Canada, and everywhere. Rising up
to this.
So basically, they are just answering the call that, hey, look here, there is a winner that you have to announce, and that is Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu.
Which was not announced.
And that is why we are here.
I mean, I was following your updates this week on Facebook, and I was so impressed with, you said there is no plan B for NUP. You have no plan B. And you say you're sticking to plan A. Obviously, we know before this election that retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye had said he is ready with plan B. Plan A should go ahead with the election, but for him, he had already said he has lost faith in an election with Museveni, despite the fact that he himself stood almost 4 times against him. But he said there was no sense in going in this election. So he was waiting for a silent kind of defiance, which we haven't seen yet come on board. But bring us to speed with your plan A. You're saying there is no plan B. Plan A was to win this election. You say you won this election, but it was not declared in your favor. So what is the plan A that we are still sticking to now?
You see, Mr. Moses, when we say we are removing a dictator, I hope you've seen that hashtag. We never said we are removing a democratically elected president. Okay? This is a dictator who has been in power for the last 35 years. So you can't dismiss him. He definitely has all the state to himself. So challenging him is basically challenging every state apparatus. And we definitely knew that. Now, why do we say we never had plan B? We only have one plan, and that is Mission 2021. The mission of removing a dictator is a process. And part of the process is elections, is court. We are going to court like you've stated. And demonstrations like you've seen around the world. We are still demonstrating. Even next, around February, we are going to the DC to demonstrate. Because we want to show the world that, hey, Uganda is bleeding, first of all. They are killing Ugandans. They are abducting Ugandans in the wee hours of the night, you know. And we have over 2,000 people rotting in prisons, and their only crime is to support Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. So this is a process, basically. And it is not that we thought, you know, Plan A would, if Plan A fails, we shall go to Plan B. If Plan B fails, we shall go to Plan C. No. We only had one plan. It is a one-way. We knew that we are going into an election. You saw whatever happened. You saw the fact that Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi was not allowed to campaign in Buganda. Okay? And citing that, oh, the numbers, you know, the COVID numbers are so high, so there will be no campaigns in the central region. And then, boom, a week later, President Museveni enters the city as if he's entering Nazareth, you know, with the triumphant crowds and, you know, cheering him. Of course, the paid, the purchased crowds. So that dishonest that is with the government of Uganda is why we are here, why we think Uganda deserves better. And we are working towards changing that. And that process will end with President Museveni and his team leaving Uganda in peace.
You know, the reason why I asked that question was Kizza Besigye had a campaign called to Alemesi at some point after losing the election. And it went a little bit, you know, to some level where people began to rise up, you know, protest briefly here and there. But the whole idea was to create awareness also, just like the same awareness being created. And my fears come in when we begin to see, you know, people now being allowed, like we saw yesterday, no, this week, the ambassador for the UK was allowed to go and meet Mr. Robert Kyagulanyi. Finally, they are trying to create a scenario like peace has returned in Uganda. There is no cause for alarm. This guy has lost the election. He can go ahead and meet his envoys. The democratic process was done. So they are trying to create back the normal Uganda to its order, you know. So for me, my worry there is, do you still see the fire?
You see, first of all, I want to be on record. We don't like a chaotic Uganda. We want a peaceful Uganda. When President Museveni was our age, and there was a fraud election in 1980, he and his team went to the bush. Actually, President Museveni, although he tells us that he went to the bush because of the election, he writes in his book and says he had actually been preparing the army even before elections. So literally, his going to the bush was not entirely because of the election, but because maybe he was greedy for power and he wanted to have a piece of it. Now, that is why he got these 23, 27, 25 people, went to the bush, recruited kids. I don't know whether you've seen videos of 9-year-olds.
The child soldiers.
You know, with guns. We are not into doing that. We are not into seeing a chaotic Uganda. We don't like, because we've grown. I was born when President Museveni is already a president. And I think you also have not seen any other president.
We represent one generation.
Exactly. So we want to see a transition of power, because definitely Museveni is not immortal, just like me, just like you. He will at one time, he will die, you know. Just like any other person. now if you get to know that you're not immortal, you want to do things that will, first of all, you want to care about your legacy. What do I leave behind? How do I want to live? Because we've seen different presidents. I mean, we've seen dictators world over, not only in Africa. And they at one time go. But how do you want to leave your country? If you want to leave it in jeopardy, like, Gaddafi was a dictator, but he was a provider to his people. Unfortunately, when he went, his country turned like you see it. But just imagine if Gaddafi had ruled for 20 years and organized a democratic election and let people, choose a leader of their own. Libya would be a different state.
Yeah, sure.
So these dictators are just selfish. They want to go down with the countries that they lead. So us and our generation don't want to take Uganda to the dogs. We just want, that is why you see us doing everything possible in the constitution. And this constitution, mind you, was made in 1995. I wonder how old we were. And in 1995, President Museveni was president. Yeah. When President Museveni came out of the bush, I told you the other time, he said he wants only 4 years. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is until 1990. And when 1990 came, they said, no, we have to make a constitution. 1995. So he gave himself another 5 years. When they made the constitution, he said, you see, I haven't been, whatever I've ruled is not constitutional. Now I need to be a constitutional president. And since they had put 2 terms, so he contested for the 2 terms, and boom, he was president until 2005. In 2005, term limits were prohibiting him from contesting. Boom, he corrupts corrupts the MPs to remove the term limits. That is his way of governance. He corrupts his way into the constitution. He bombs his way into Uganda. He wants to be bombed out of Uganda. Unfortunately, that is not our intention. Our intention is to remove him using means allowed in the constitution of Uganda. In the constitution that he signed himself as president.
I mean, one of them has failed. That was the election. We're going into a second.
Who says it has failed?
I mean, again, we saw how the results came out. At least they've announced a leader, a winner, who was in Mr. Robert Kyagulanyi. The next stage now is the Supreme Court, and today we can confirm that the Supreme Court declined to receive Bobi Wine's election petition. Not saying they have thrown it out, but they say they could not receive it today. So the hope is that they are going to receive it on Monday. So Monday is when they're going to receive the petition filed by Mr. Robert Kyagulanyi, in which he is attempting to challenge the election results. We saw Amama Mbabazi did that in the last election. Kizza Besigye has done that like 4 times. And we can overwhelmingly all be sure before even it is filed that there is no any ruling that is going to be delivered that will overturn this election. At least we can be sure of that, because we are talking about a man who has the power and authority to appoint the justice, the judges. He appoints the Speaker of Parliament. He appoints the Electoral Commission chairperson. So he is literally in charge of the entire country. So there is no way one judge is going to rise up. It will be a miracle. It will take a miracle for a judge in Uganda to rise up and say he or she is nullifying, or they have sat and have agreed that they are nullifying the election results. So we can as well say the Supreme Court may not also be the other option, but it's good to stay on course, as you said at the beginning. So plan A was to win this election. The electoral results showed that Mr. Museveni won. Plan B, not plan B, still plan A is to make sure that you are taking charge and making sure you are using all available options available, at least to make sure that no one says you didn't try A, B, C, D. So you're going to court after court. What next after court?
I want to assert again that we never had plan A, B, C, D.
Okay, we're sticking to plan A.
We have one plan.
Plan A was to win this election.
Not to win this election, to remove President Museveni. That is the only plan that we have. And it is public. You see, our constitution, leave alone the raping that has happened to it, but our constitution has been one of the best documents, the best constitutional documents in the world over, and it provides basically everything that we need to remove President Museveni, and that is what we are pursuing. First of all, our constitution, like I normally tell you in the preamble, tells us that those who wrote the constitution put in consideration the history of our country. And therefore, they never wanted to have such never again to happen. Unfortunately, they were dealing with Mufere, who told them, yeah, I'm comfortable with this. He signed himself, and here we are. Nevertheless, the Constitution talks about elections. If you're dissatisfied, it talks about the courts. You can go to court. It talks about peaceful demonstrations. If you're dissatisfied, you can demonstrate peacefully. But it doesn't talk about riots. It talks about peaceful demonstrations. And peaceful demonstrations, it does not mean people are going to steal, people are going to crash people's cars or whatever. And normally, what the government does, like on 17th November, they plant people to do that just to paint a picture that, hey, these are riots. And we are very careful, you know. We know that President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu has always been cautious with the people that he's moving with. I mean, this is an election when all the polling agents were grabbed in the night before elections, and they are in prison. But still, Ugandans came out and raised their voice to President Museveni that, hey, time up. Now we are contesting the election results that Justice Byabakama gave out. We are contesting something that we already knew. I'm sure you've seen polling stations. I think they are around 380 something, where President Museveni scored 100%.
Yeah, I mean
that's not possible.
They showed there were some 345, I think, in the West. The only anomaly there is that it's very rare to have 100% voter turnout.
I mean, you can't say that in over 300 polling stations, no one got sick, no one traveled, no one, like literally everyone in the register came up and voted, and they voted for Museveni.
But always there is also sometimes some ballots are going to have mistakes done.
Exactly, so exactly.
I mean, let's go back to court, there's going to be enough overwhelming evidence.
Definitely.
It's going to be enough.
Definitely.
But what we can conquer is that there is not going to be a ruling that will nullify this election.
Going to court is not because we want them to rule,
but it should
in
have
our
been a
favor.
Way out. It should have been a way out.
It's not that we want them to rule in our favor. We want them to rule in the favor of the truth. Just like elections. We never went to election saying we must win. No. We went to election telling Justice Byabakama that we want to see the truth. We want you to read what Ugandans have voted, not what President Museveni and his people give you. Unfortunately, you saw what happened. Byabakama was getting results from from other sources. until I think yesterday but one, that's when they tried to, come up with those figures that they put up. And still, even when they put up the figures, I think you saw at first they had just copied and pasted some of the districts, like Abim, they paste to Park, they forget to change some figures, and then when someone comes out and shows that fraudulent, they go back, they change. I mean, this is something that the whole world sees.
I mean, if the court, by any chance, gives in space and room to examine, as Mr. Robert Chagon was saying, the declaration forms, per district, to see how the data was received and accepted and into the system, I think that could be one pathway, if it's possible, for the Supreme Court to pronounce itself and either say there's going to be another election, given the fact, the fact that you have one candidate who was incarcerated into his house, for no reason. You have, so many arrests that were done, and the Electoral Commission never came out to pronounce itself. So all those could really be reasons that the court could pronounce itself on. But as I've said, there is always that pressure, at the back of their minds that these judges were appointed by Mr. Museveni, and they report to him. This is like, it's like if I give you key performance indicators and I say, Kapalaga, I'm sending you out to work. So it doesn't matter how you look outside, but at the back of your mind, I appointed you. And so,
and I must tell you that it is those elites who have taken our country to the dogs. If you look at a person like Justice Byabakama, for God's sake, he's a justice, of the High Court. A person who took, I don't know how long it takes to become, and how much education it takes to become a justice in a High Court. If he doesn't care about the time that he spent in school, and he just reads results that they give him, then it is so shameful. I mean, these guys should be ashamed of themselves, doing things that even a person who never went to school cannot do. That is why we come up. We as the common people, I am not a politician, and you know that. I've been working on radio for the last 10 years. I've been doing music for the last 7 years. That is my background. Not even a counselor. We don't even have a counselor in our family. But when Robert Chagulanyi came up, he opened our eyes and he told us, hey, Baboyi, these guys are just grabbing everything. They are stealing from our country. And if we dare just to keep quiet, you cannot know what we have for the future. And that is why we are here. That is why we are talking. So we definitely know that even when you read Honorable, what's that justice's name? I'm forgetting the name.
Which one?
He's one of those who were in Amama Mbabazi's case. He's dismissed now.
Well, I mean, not
but he clearly stated that as judges, like in private, they all agreed that actually Besigye had won the election. But because they have an appointing authority, they can't let him down, so they had to pronounce like they did. And that is what Ugandans are watching out for. We are putting them on the spotlight. Every camera will be on the justice of the justice department of the country.
Yeah.
And we are going to provide all the evidence. And this is something you see. Kafero sang a song and said, no mulalu achiramuza bwe ne father achiramuza bwe nkanya. There are some things that even a young kid can see. Now, if a young kid of P7 can sit in that hearing and decide that actually there was fraud and this is the actual winner. So we are going to compare the brains of a young P7 chap with the brains of the justices that went to school for 7 plus 6 years, plus, I don't know, 5 LDC, plus I don't know how many years to become a judge. So we are putting them to a test. And then after, like I've told you, this is a process. It is called Mission 2021.
I mean, it's going to be an interesting petition case. I can assure you that the country is going to have a wonderful time following up their activities, as we saw with the Mbabazi petition case. With all the brains behind the NUP and everyone else, I can know that there will be representation from embassies, there will be representation from the UK, from the USA. It's going to be one of those landmark rulings that Uganda is looking forward to. And we hope that the judiciary is going to be put under test. So it's going to be one of those challenges that has ever faced the judiciary in Uganda, on whether they're going to stand by what they swore or they're going to stand by their allegiance to the president. Now, a quick question I want to ask you also in regards to the declaration forms. The Uganda police came out today and said they do not have any declaration forms that Robert Kyagulanyi says they are holding. Your principal came out and said that there are over 4,000 declaration forms that were taken by the police and that they had all the information, and that was part of the evidence that you have to provide to court. But the police says it has got totally nothing. It handed over everything to the National Unity Platform. So who is fooling who?
You see, Uganda and all its institutions are under President Museveni. That is why when we are fighting, we are not fighting President Museveni as a person, but we are fighting the Musevenism. I normally tell friends, if Museveni doesn't leave power and probably die as president, Uganda will not be stable. We need to uproot the Musevenism when he is still here. Now, the biggest crime that you can ever commit in Uganda today is supporting Robert Kyagulanyi. That is the biggest crime you can commit in Uganda, is having a divergent mind from that of President Museveni. Like I've told you, thousands of NUP supporters are rotting in prison. And they are not, I think you saw Devi, my friend Selector Devi, who was abducted from his house in the wee hours of the night. They abduct him, they take him to military, they torture him, then they take him, give him some medicine and all that. And then after a few weeks, he's here. You know, that is what is happening. Now, Devi was just lucky that, you know, somehow is somehow known, and, you know, we are going to post about him, and then like the government will be forced to you know, to bring him out. But there are very many people rotting in jail. Nubian Lee, as we talk today, is in jail. Eddie Mutwe, and all those. And remember, they were given bail by the court. But just because of impunity, the executive will decide. It doesn't matter what the court says. So even when maybe Enanga or whoever says, you see, we don't have these, we know they know that they have them. We know they know that they've been hunting down every NUP agent who has their forms. They are either killed, imprisoned, or in a hideout. Enanga knows that. President Museveni knows that. They just decide to be dishonest. But like I always tell you, when time is up, time is up. I liked Devi. When Devi came out, he told us, he told the officers who were torturing him that you can do everything to me, but you cannot stop the day from coming to dawn.
Wow, that was powerful.
So, at any one time, it is going to get to the night, and it will be day in the morning. However powerful you might be, you can't stop that. And you definitely can't stop change.
Yeah.
My teacher was Mr. Okot in Ruviri Secondary School. I remember he taught us about change in the African society and, change. And he told us something, that if you don't change, change will change you. So if President Museveni and his comrades don't want to change, change is going to change them.
Change will change them. A quick one. Is the principal now allowed to get out of this house? Because we saw that, they took off the barriers and the barricades. The UK ambassador was able to go and meet him, despite the fact that they stopped the US ambassador. That's a question that also you may want to discuss. Why did the government of Uganda stop the US ambassador from meeting Bobi Wine, but then they were quick to allow the UK ambassador? Do you feel any sensitivity along those lines?
First of all, before I even answer that, how many people have you seen congratulate? How many presidents or leaders have you seen congratulating President Museveni?
I haven't seen many. No, the US also not even acknowledged him as the leader of the winner of the election.
Because everyone knows this was a sham election. They don't want to get involved in such. Every noble leader will not want to see his hands in that. And that is why they think they cannot, they will distance themselves from such sham elections. The leader of UK, you see, some of these development partners are the ones who keep Ugandans and other Africans hostage by providing dictators with whatever they want, provided you do what they want.
Yeah.
So such dictators will tend to work for these guys so they can keep them in power. And we've appealed to the US because at least we are here, and we've told them to look at the elections. I mean, even when you don't know politics, like me, if you look at the elections, you would tell from the first sight that no, this is a fraud. Unfortunately, if the UK does not want to pronounce itself, well, that's their decision, But as Ugandans and Ugandans who voted, we know the truth, and we know we are going to get the victory that we deserve. And then you asked whether Honorable Kyagulanyi is able to move. Actually, you remember when the court pronounced itself and told the army to vacate, the army was still there for like around 8 hours waiting for President Museveni's final word. And what they did, they simply moved away from his garden. And they pushed a little bit further. Not that they left, but they simply moved a little bit further so news could bring out the story that you see the army has finally left. But they never left. And Robert Kyagulanyi can actually receive visitors, but he cannot go visit someone because the army is still there. They are only a little bit at a further distance.
I mean, we saw a helicopter hovering over this house.
Exactly.
So, and Bobi Wine came out and said they are, under they're from all angles. They're still being watched and monitored, whether they will be allowed to go out. But and viewers, we are expecting to be joined by Herman Aienebyona, who just returned back from Uganda from incarceration, where he was detained and arrested. We are hoping he's going to be joining us in a very short while before we wind up the show today. But let's talk about what you said earlier on. Mr. Museveni, we went into this election knowing that he has not once or twice affirmed that a mayor election cannot take him out of power. So it was just as evident as possible that yes, we are just following this democratic process, we understand what has to happen, but he himself has said it, that a mayor election will not take me out of power. And you have said you don't want to use defiance at this, no, you don't want to use violence at this time, though you want peaceful defiance.
We never want to use violence. But President Museveni is on record saying he is the master of violence.
How is Museveni going to hand over power to a person that is not going to rise up to him the way he rose up when he's coming to power? I think that's how he's looking at it, that I did not come to power through an election. There is no way I'm going to leave power through an election. Unfortunately, that means it leaves us with only one avenue, that is defiance by means of violence, which we don't all want to see. What is the hope? That a dictator, okay, you got a dictator, a man who came to power through war and has said, I'm not going to leave power through an election. What is the probability that a peaceful protest, which we have seen being quashed all over the country, any protests have been crushed, you know, from the homes, from wherever the candidates are, they will incarcerate and stop any kind of activity or uprising happening. How are we going to get to a realization, or this notice that, okay, people protesting on the street peacefully and holding placards are going to force a man to leave power?
First of all, there is a video that I posted on my Facebook when President Museveni in 1995 said, they say he captured power, but he doesn't like the way they put it because he respects the Constitution. And he says, if someone doesn't respect the Constitution, they deserve to be hanged. That's his own words. I want to remind you that Egypt, there was a revolution in Egypt in 2010. And later in 2012, they held elections. And Mohamed Morsi was declared president. People had not voted for him, but he was declared. And he was declared in May 2012. In July 2013, he was not president. El Bashir Muhammad, a field marshal. Do you know what a field marshal is?
It's the highest rank in the military.
Now, Field Marshal El Bashir of Sudan rather, won the election, Shama election by 95%. I don't think he made a year in office. Of course, after being president for so many years, he organized an election, he rigged it, he used the Hizbi Abakama to rig the election, and boom, he declared him with a 95. Museveni no atuyambieko, he gives himself 58. But the other guy gave himself 95%. But people in Sudan said, no, boss, we never voted for you. Today, he's not president of Sudan. It is not, no one went to the bush to fight Bashir, a field marshal. A field marshal who had every gun that you know. He's not president of Sudan.
You know what hurts so much is, as I told you before, that two generals in Uganda have come out categorically clear on record. One was General Sejusa, the other one was this guy, what is his name? He also stood in this election. Tumukunde. For Sejusa, it was clear. He said, I think was it 2016, the one BSJ won, he said that there was a parallel tallying center. Now, you know, the worrying thing about all these things that all these statements are made and allegations, and nothing is done to investigate, to understand what exactly this person mean by saying that. That there was a parallel tallying center in no, he said, was it Kololo where he said? Yeah. That they had a parallel tallying center in Kololo which was feeding into the Electoral Commission. And he said in his own words, I quote him, that the results were read as they came in from the Kololo tallying center. That's what Sejusa said. Again, those are his words. He can be held against those words. The same statement was also used or alleged by Mr. Tumukunde, that there are always tyro polling centers. You know, they will never declare the results the way they came. So there has been enough awareness even before going to this election. My only worry is that with all this overwhelming evidence that is always given, what is done to make sure our systems are strengthened, even before we go to these elections? Why? Like, no one ever thought about what has been said before. We went into this same election, and now we are back
Who tells
to
you
square
no one
zero.
ever thinks about it?
No, they do, but they do nothing, you know. That's
Exactly, because
So-
of the Musevenism that I've told you about. Because whoever has to do something, they think about the name Museveni. And when people ask or tell us, you see, your main agenda is to remove Museveni, because everything in Uganda rotates about him. I'll give you an example. Honorable Kadaga has on several events tried to, you know, to do something right as a speaker. And you've seen what President Museveni's reaction is. He will always, you know, attack her verbally, or invite her to State House, or invite the whole NRM caucus to go to State House, and then they decide otherwise. And you know how gerrymandering is. You will find a constituency like Kampala Central having a population of like, nevertheless, we still beat them to that. Whether it's a free and fair election or not, we are winning. And I want to affirm that. Mr. Moses, the election was not free and fair, and it was rigged, but we are winning.
There's overwhelming evidence that the election was never free and fair in the first place. I am not saying it was free and fair. We have enough, you know, evidence. If I may just read some, do we have any messages here? Someone says, so are you telling us that police will tell the truth? Well, that's up to them. People are saying we're removing a dictator. Where is Herman Aienebyona? I mean, we are hoping Herman is on the way. Our producer should inform us how far he has gone, but he was supposed to be here, though he had another meeting online that he was conducting. Museveni must go. Museveni is not the president. We are tired of the rotten regime. So much is going on. Someone here is saying, you lost the election. You lost the election. Give me one sec. Let me read this one before we go. It says, you lost the election, so you have to accept that Museveni won. I mean, there's so much comments coming in, and we hope that they will keep in coming in. And thank you so much for all that you're doing. Kapalaga, another one, you know, as we're waiting on Herman to come. For Mr. Robert Chagulanyi, I asked you earlier whether he's being allowed to go out, and if he is being allowed to meet people publicly. Is he being allowed to meet people publicly outside?
Like I've said.
Because I know he had a meeting of his members of parliament,
in his
and
home.
they met in his home. But again, I have not been in touch, you know, to understand whether this week he was able to get, you know.
Like I've said, he's allowed to get visitors. He's not allowed to visit.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I missed that one. Okay. So
yeah, he can't visit, but he can
receive
visitors
in his home.
Yes, and you see what the NRM government does is they want to normally put a propaganda that, hey, there is democracy here. You see, now the court has ruled, so you vacate. But hey, don't go very far. That is what happens in Uganda. Like, on every event that happens, the court can pronounce itself. And I'll tell you that even the court, as it pronounces itself, the judge might even know what is next. I think you've seen, we were young. I know you might also have been young, when court was raided by Black Mamba.
I remember that.
You remember that scenario?
Yes.
When the court pronounced itself in favor of Dr. Besigye, but then Mr. Museveni send his soldiers to pick him from the court.
From the court itself. Just to show you that the
court,
that
he has mighty powers. Yeah. And that happens. And that is why we must desist from that. We must change our country. We must fight for our country without shedding any blood, but using constitutional means. And that is what we ought to do as NUP.
So let's talk about that in practicality, on ground. How do we see this coming to pass? I'm sorry if I may drag so much on this question. When you say you have to fight peacefully, how is that going to be done, the fighting? The court system, we know, is not going to give us what we need. I just want to go back on ground. Munansa aliye machindi agala kumanya nze nganza aliwa ne machindi nyinza kukola wochi okulaba nga akalulu kenawa, because we saw people in Gulu protesting. They said they wanted to know who voted for Mr. Museveni. There's a polling station where they apparently Robert Kyagulanyi lost, and they were sure that there was no one who voted for Museveni in a polling station. So they were demanding, we want to see who voted for Mr. Museveni so that we can go to his home. So there are people like that, like those who know station here, but we are not sure how he did not win. Abantu ngaba batudde mu byalo bye bali bagamba tusabire gwanga tukolechi, what is the next step that we want to know. Kiki tuzaako ffe nga ffe. Tewali kulwana, tewali lutalo, tugenda kwekalakaasa, police etuganye okukola ekintu kyonna kyonna, bagala kuwulira principle kyabagamba ekiddako bo, bagamba bali ready.
You see, I talked about Field Marshal El Bashir. In December 2018, you know, he had won an election, like I said, by 95%. In December 2018, the price of a bread
was almost 10 times.
A bread went up. And because of a bread, Bashir is not president. But Bashir fought wars, my friend. Bashir fought the war for South Sudan. I remember South Sudan, I think, cut itself off from Sudan during Bashir tenure. He fought those wars. He fought every war that you might think of. But just the bread led to his downfall. So President Museveni might be so sophisticated with a lot of ammunition, with a lot of, he has intelligence here, he has all that you think of. And a bread might lead to his downfall. So as you're here saying, you see how practical is it, what will people do? You see now, if the court doesn't pronounce itself, a bread will lead to President Museveni's downfall, just like it did in Sudan.
In happening. Okay, just bring us to speed with activities going on in the diaspora. What do we have next week?
So the diaspora, I first of all want to thank and congratulate the people in the diaspora for fueling the elections. President Museveni has consistently said Robert Kyagulanyi is funded by the Western world, and rightfully so. The Western world that President Museveni has always referred to is me and people like me. It is us who has funded the whole campaign. And I want to urge you to continue funding for the campaign, because the battle is done, but the war is still raging. So I want to congratulate you, first of all, upon electing the next president, the 10th president of the country. I want to congratulate you upon having so many members of parliament. And I want to urge you nti temuzikiza. We are just starting. I want to thank all those who were in New York last week. Your voice was heard. I want to thank all of those who were in UK, who were in Canada, Denmark, Switzerland, wherever you were, Netherlands, everywhere you managed to protest, your voice was heard. Now, we are not breaking because we are facing a dictator. That is why we say we are removing a dictator. He is sophisticated with everything that he needs. But we as Ugandans must press on hard. So we shall be having protests in the DC within the mid of February.
That's Washington, D.C.
That's Washington, D.C. And we still want to appeal to the world to stand with Uganda, to stand with the people who are abducted every night, to stand with the people who are killed in the prisons, everywhere, to stand with kids who don't have parents anymore because they were killed during campaigns, they were killed during post-elections, they were killed. Ladies, I saw ladies going to police to demand for the release of their kids. There is drone cars now come and just take someone. Just like that. Now, what happens if, it is now security operatives doing that. Now, how shall we differentiate if these are security operatives or these are criminals? What if criminals get drone cars and start abducting people? How will we know that actually so-and-so was taken by a criminal gang, not a security operative?
It happens in a lawless state like Somalia.
Exactly.
I've been to Mogadishu where you can't tell who is a military, who is a police or soldier because they all wear the same uniforms.
Exactly.
And so it's a state of lawlessness.
So because, of course, the government doesn't care, but that is what is happening in Uganda. Sooner or later, they are going to abduct people, and those who are abducting are actually criminals. They will start sacrificing people, and the government will just give a response. No, we don't have that one. No, we don't know about that. And before we know it, lives are gone. We don't want that.
I was talking to a friend from Kenya, and he mocked me. He said, "You Ugandans, we don't understand Ugandans. How can you have one president for 35 years? Like, why are you doing nothing?" I'm like, "What do you want us to do?" He says, "How? What? How can you say you're doing nothing about this man who has been in power for 35?" I mean, for once, I felt so defenseless. I couldn't explain what we are doing. Yeah. But in my thinking, I always tell myself that it should not be Kapalaga. I should not tell you Ntigendo Nawe. It should be in your head to know that you need to shower. Yeah, that you are right now. So again, it's my prayer that we do not have to tell people that you have overstayed in power, that it comes to their conscience, that this is clear, this understanding. Now, there are so many meetings going on. I've been following up events with the YouVote platform. Can you bring us to speed with the information that has been coming in, all the data? Where is it being put? Because I know you've been putting together information from districts, from wherever it came through, and you have been, juxtaposing it with whatever was being provided by the Electoral Commission. We learned that in some districts, in some areas like Wakiso, there are some polling stations whose results were never declared. And yet, we got information coming in from Karamoja and from Arua. And information from the city and nearby was skipped, especially in the central region. So with all this information that the YouVote platform has been having and has generated in regards to this election, where is it and how can Ugandans access it to see from themselves what you call the highest level of fraud that took place in this election?
Before I answer about the YouVote, I'll tell you, I'll speak to what you talked about, like having results from Karamoja And then results are tallied in Chambogo. And then they miss out over 2,000 polling station results.
And the EC said that
from Kampala.
That would not change the result election.
From Kampala. Apparently, results, because there was no internet. Okay, let's say, you see, because it's the government, they were using some internet. I don't think there is too much internet in Karamoja than it is in Kampala or Wakiso. N'abasajja bano abataswala. They announce results and Byabakama boldly says, we missed out over 2,000 polling station results because apparently the results would not change anything. Where did you get what you were reading?
And what was the confidence in knowing that they will not change? Was it because they knew the figures of the people who have voted, the amount of people who voted in those figures?
The number of registered voters were 18 million. Justice Byabakama is telling us only around, I think, 9 million voted. That's not right. That's not right. Uganda, this time around, registered the highest number, the highest turnout of voters. That is reflected in the U-Vote application. The U-Vote is up there, and people can see. We are still, because when people are working on the U-Vote get the data, they have to analyze it. And because, of course, as we are getting data, some of it is not so accurate. So they want to make sure they only put more accurate results. Because, like I said, it is not about Kyagulanyi winning. It is about telling the truth. If it was about Kyagulanyi winning, we would just populate the U-Vote with our results and, you know, show like Justice Byabakama and TVs in Uganda did. All they cared about was to make sure Museveni wins. By what percentage? That was the debate.
Oh, yes.
And that is why you saw, like I said, I think you've seen a video where a Ugandan is clearly showing you that actually the results that they put were just duplicated from district to district. And when that Ugandan put that challenge, they had to go back to change a little bit here and there, you know, change here one, put one here, put 0 here, put that fraud, that dishonesty is what is lagging Africa behind. It is what is Uganda's biggest problem. Like President Museveni stated rightfully so when he had just come, that Africa's problem, and Uganda in particular, is leaders who overstay in power. I am restating his statement that actually President Museveni was right. Africa's problem, and Uganda's problem in particular, is leaders who overstay in power.
But those, for now, he says those who stay, but who have been elected democratically.
That is an amendment. You know,
so
he's fond of
he's
amendment.
been elected democratically. I'm on the Electoral Commission website here, and if you'd like to check some of the, I think they began putting up some information.
No, they put up the results.
And I'm seeing, yeah, you can check and see if your district, just to confirm whether your district, if you have.
Are you talking of the U-Vote
no,
or
this
the
is the Electoral Commission of Uganda.
Commission? Yeah, they put some results, you know, after being pressurized by Ugandans. Because they announced President Museveni without results. As a matter of fact, they just got results after announcing. And Justice Byabakama gave a very lame excuse that, you know, by law I have to announce in 48 hours. Does that mean you announce who you want? The law does not give you powers to announce who you want because you have to beat the 24-hour time period. You have to announce the truth. And Ugandans know the truth. Ugandans voted massively for President Museveni, country over. And what they did, because they want to project this as a Uganda thing, you see, they refuse our MPs who are up country. They also robbed them of their victory because they wanted to show it is only Buganda who voted for Robert Kyagulanyi. Kyagulanyi never campaigned in Buganda. How do you say it is Buganda who voted for him when he never campaigned?
But he won. I mean, we saw the city council elections in Kampala. I mean, they say he had, out of 44, he had 42, right? 43 councillors.
Yes.
And the NRM didn't get any at all. I mean, for me, that is a resounding voice.
No, that is what happened the country over.
Yeah.
Haven't you seen ballot papers where we didn't have candidates and people came and drew their umbrella there because we told them, but all about umbrella ticking. So a person goes to the ballot and says, okay, but they told us, but all about umbrella ticking. But here there is no umbrella. I think I have to, to draw it myself. And someone draws it there because the umbrella swept the whole country.
Oh, yeah. That's what they wanted to see. Again, we are hopeful. We are hopeful that there is still hope for Mr. Robert Kyagulanyi. If he has enough overwhelming evidence, we are hoping and we are praying for the judiciary in Uganda that they will not be, they will not work under the pressures of a man, but they will stand, to the oath that they swore and that they pledge allegiance to the people of Uganda. So I am hoping that it's going to be one of those interesting election petition. And so just to bring you up to speed is that...
You see, just sorry to interrupt, but I think lawyers, like justice is the only profession where they are proud of being land. And they refer to themselves as my land friend.
My land friends.
Now, those land friends are put on a test. One of them, their own, already failed the test.
Yeah.
Now, the rest of the land friends are put on a test. And Ugandans are watching. And Ugandans are not stupid. Ugandans know what happened. Ugandans know who they voted for. And Ugandans want to see that person they voted for swearing in May. We want to give President Museveni this ample time. They give you this time to get hold of your things, to leave the State House. We want to get him a chopper. We want to do things like America does. You see, you bring you a chopper, you put in your things, you go to Rachtura safely, and we refer to you as our Mzee Museveni Jariyeyo. That is what we want. That is all Ugandans are crying for. But why should you be so greedy that even when you're 80, you don't want to live in peace? You want to leave Uganda in jeopardy. You want to, I wonder whether you've watched President Museveni speak lately. All he's talking about is crashing. I have you this time. I see you. He calls himself Jaja. President Museveni is older than my Jaja. I can't allow my Jaja to do anything. I make sure she has someone to help her. Now, that is what I want for President Museveni. I want him to keep around as a Jaja, and we shall go to him probably if we want something from him. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want to leave the legacy. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years. Nelson Mandela left the prison younger and so determined. Nelson Mandela could tell South Africans that now, since I've been in prison for 27 years, I am going to rule for 20 years. And South Africans would just clap because they took him so dearly. Whatever he had done for the country, they looked up to him. He only ruled for 5 years, and he said no. President Museveni, when President Museveni was asked how long they could be in power, he said 2 years. 2 years, 1, 2. He said, we are freedom fighters. We are not politicians. So we're just liberating the country, and after that, we want to give the country to the civilians. So I think we can only be in power for 2 years. President Yoweri Museveni Kaguta said that.
2 years.
He has been president for 35 years. He wants to be president for over 40 years. But why?
I mean, we still have 3 months before the swearing in. So do we envisage something to happen?
Something to happen?
That could change the status quo?
Mukitale. This is Mission 2021. Mission 2021 means removing President Museveni peacefully. We are not holding guns like he did. We are simply removing him peacefully. And we are doing that, and Robert Kyagulanyi is going to be sworn in the 10th president of Uganda.
I mean, I'm hopeful. As I've told you, sometimes we have nothing to explain. You can't tell people why. As I told you, a friend of mine from Kenya challenged me and said, you Ugandans are cowards. I mean, Ugandans do their due diligence, and they take part in the vote. And I think for the very first time, we had a very overwhelming number of Ugandans who voted in this election, despite the fact that, as you say, a majority of them had or felt disenfranchised with the results because they did not see themselves coming out. I'm not sure if our producer should confirm with us whether we continue. He's coming, he's arriving. Okay, I mean, Herman, we've been waiting for Herman because he's, as you all heard, he was in Uganda and he had traveled to Lira where he had gone to.
He has made me speak a lot of English. I don't know why.
Right? and yet he's not
I think he
here.
will have to pay for that.
But he was arrested, and I think he was in jail for how long? 5 days? He has to come and tell us.
Yeah, close to 5 days.
Close to 5 days or more. But we are grateful to God that we were able to release him, and he traveled back to the USA and is back in the country. And we are hoping that, I mean, before at least we wind down the show, he should be coming on and give us a quick, update with what happened to him, how was it, where he was, and just to tell us on the level of diaspora, because he's heading the diaspora, he's the diaspora coordinator for the National Unity Platform. So much is going on, so many meetings are happening to see how and what can be done in the aftermath of this election, to see whether there's going to be any changes coming on board. And as Herman comes, because now that he's arrived, Kaparaga, you and I've seen people who are saying thank you so much. You've led them, and they're congratulating you for your able leadership. Like you've been traversing the entire USA. What have been some of your major highlights?
First of all, I want to thank Ugandans. You see, President Museveni, for all along, I don't know whether it came to your school, but in my school there were patriotism classes. They normally taught us, you see, you have to love your country, you see, and all they talk about in loving the country is believing in the NRM. So to us, Ababufu, we don't go by that. At least we went to school to make sure we think for ourselves. The time, this small time that I've been, that I've spent, coordinating the whole of the world with the NUP activities has actually showed me real patriotism. I'll tell you for a fact, Mukitale, Ugandans world over contribute money to people they've never seen. We have coordinators world over. We have coordinators in South Africa, Zambia, Kenya, Japan, South Korea. We've never seen each other. But we told them, hey, we need 4 million here. Can you please go through your people and make sure they send 4 million and they send 10. But these Ugandans have never seen each other, but they trust each other to that extent that they will send in the money and make sure the money does whatever it has to do. Now, that spirit of patriotism is not going to just be taught in schools. No, it is apparent to every person, every Ugandan, to make sure they take care of their country. And that is what we've taught. That is what Honorable Kyagulanyi has been teaching. And indeed, people have taken his lessons seriously. People are sending in money. People have not seen Herman. I don't know Herman. I just find him on TV stations. I just have to work with him. He comes late. I'm okay. I speak a lot of English because he's not here, and I am okay. We still have to move. Now, that relationship that we build as Ugandans was lacking. Uganda has been so divided on tribal sentiments, on religious values, on, different denominations. But in the National Unity Platform, Aienebyona is my closest friend. He's Aienebyona, for God's sake. I am Kakande. His mother is a Mtoro. My mother could be an Acholi. We don't care. All we care about is the love that we have for our country. That I've seen within this period. And I have very high hopes that once President Museveni and his comrades are gone, Uganda is heading to the best and right direction.
Amen. That's a good recap for you. Mr. Herman Aienebyona is finally joined us, is in the house, is in the building. I want him to first apologize to the entire world because he has kept us waiting for close to 1 hour.
I know.
And but we are grateful that you're here in the house, so greet our audiences.
Yeah.
Apologize for coming in late.
I want to first apologize for coming in late. I wish things were different. I wish I was, I didn't have other commitments that sustain life that I have to meet before being here. Just like the NRM people who are comfortable and can do whatever they want whenever they want. We have to juggle multiple things, but that's no excuse. I apologize, but I'm very happy to see you, my brother. And I'm also very happy to see you. I have been watching you talk about me in a not good terms, so we have to talk after this. But I appreciate your presence and your patience. Thank you.
We bless the Lord that you're finally back and you're well. It's a miracle, something can...
Can you believe you even...
Life is so unpredictable.
I didn't come with my beret, man, because of you, but okay.
But in your heart,
even the public knows.
Yeah. But welcome back. We've been telling our viewers that you're going to share with them your experience in Uganda. First and foremost, personally, I knew what the government is capable of doing. But I was saddened to find that even someone who had nothing that they could put against, they could treat you the way they treated you. That video that went viral, I don't think we're going to play it because of time, and if you have it, that went so viral. When we saw it here as a church and as a people, we were all so heartbroken and we were so afraid because we didn't know what happened afterwards, But take us to speed with what happened when you got to Uganda. And it's not just you. We still have over 65 other people who are still in incarceration, including the Nubian Lees and the Eddie Mutwes that were arrested. But bring us to speed with what happened and what went on really, and from your perspective.
In summary, it is inhumanity. It is unnecessary violence that we have been promised by the incumbent. I arrived in Uganda on a Monday. I traveled to Lira. I am a volunteer for NUP. In Uganda, being an NUP volunteer is almost criminal. It is considered criminal by the people who decide what is criminal and what is not, which is extremely mesmerizing. I mean, I don't understand how we are comfortable with this kind of culture. But I arrived in Uganda, traveled to Lira. I was supposed to, just go through, see how covered we are and how, how we are doing in terms of polling agents and elections, and also visit. It was my first time in northern Uganda. I come from the west. When I traveled, I was hoping to go to western Uganda, but I was told by friends and some comrades at the secretariat that our supervisor in Lira had been arrested. So I traveled there, and on arrival, DISO, CMI, flying squad, I went to a room. They entered the room and did what they did, put me on a pickup, punching me.
What we saw was a brief version. How long was it? Because we saw one of them putting his hands on your neck, and you were trying to scream that you can't breathe. How hard was it for you at that moment?
It was challenging because he started, someone came in the room. I had not put my bags down. I had been advised that it might be a secure place to stay. It wasn't a place of my preference, but I think I was ill-advised. But they walked in like employees of the.
Like they opened with the keys of the hotel.
No, they didn't open. The door was open. I hadn't settled in yet. You know how you just come into a room and someone is. You almost have a feeling like they were waiting for you, or they were behind you, and they walk in, so arrogant, and say, you're not staying here tonight. I'm like, is this person an employee? Is the room booked? Who are you? What? It's like, oh, I'm a police officer. I'm like, how do I know? It's like, you will know at the police station. I'm like, no. I've seen videos of people being abducted. I am not going anywhere with someone who, first of all, can't identify myself, but is telling me he's a police officer, and I am not aware of any crime I committed. He can't tell me the crime. He can't identify himself. I said no. In minutes, a second man came in, a third man came in, and that is when the hotel staff, because they had walked in with me, you know how they bring in luggage, and then I was about to pay and all this, and that is who started recording that video.
Oh, the video.
Yeah. And I said, no, I'm not going anywhere. Then this guy commands someone to take my phone. I'm like, no, this is not real. And the gentleman, his name is Moses Obong, or Obong. The one who is on my neck with his knee on my back, jumped, grabbing my hands, basically wrestling me onto the bed, and then choking me basically in my neck with his knee on my back, forcing handcuffs on me, and someone else helping him. It was difficult, it was challenging, and it was really scary.
I mean, when I heard you screaming that you can't breathe, I couldn't watch it any longer because, I know you personally, And I know there was nothing that they could put. Normally they would plant a gun in the room and say, we found him with a gun. Did they give you any reason as to why they were doing whatever they were? Because sometimes it is easier if you plant a gun and tell me, like how you said they put bullets, magazine in a trash can, and they say,
and they
check there, check there, there's a magazine. For your case, was there anything that could justifiably bring to point and say, this is what they were doing? Of course, we know the mind behind it, but...
No, there was nothing. There was nothing. They were lucky. In my backpack, I had carried a beret. So on reaching the police station, they searched me. And after I was at the police station for about 10 hours before they decided whether to put me in or not. And they decided that they were going to charge me with military stores, is what they called it.
That's Lira Police Station?
Lira Central Police Station. And
military store?
That's what they called the charge. Possession of military stores. I was also shocked.
Maybe that's for the beret, right?
For the beret. And then I was also shocked to learn that our police stations have a department called political department. I couldn't understand that. And I was telling the officers, of course, after they brought me in, I was telling them that they should just call it an RM desk. Because, I mean, we can fool each other all we want, but the only people who end up in that place are NUP. Not every opposition is lucky or unlucky enough to end up in that place. Yeah, so that's the condition. I was in a cell for 4 days. Very bad living conditions.
Did you have any access to your lawyers, anything during that time?
Not even a phone call. I told you, they grabbed my phone. If that video hadn't come out, no one would know where I am.
I mean, that's the power of social media, because we were all, in just a minute of that video coming out, the whole world was talking about Herman Aienebyona, Herman Aienebyona, Herman Aienebyona. And, I was so sure if this thing had not come, because, the challenge is that so many people die like that, unknowingly, no one knows their whereabouts, and no one ever understands what exactly happened.
Yep.
So that hotel staff, that hotel official, whoever recorded that video, really was maybe sent by God himself, because otherwise there would have never been any record of where Herman is. I know, but you pity our people, and I came back humbled. We should appreciate and give a lot of respect to the people on ground, the people who do work for the movement genuinely on ground. They work in very unpredictable conditions. And I really, really pray that we in the diaspora support those efforts, support those operations to the best of our abilities, because it is unbelievable the kind of, they can make you run crazy. The paranoia. I was in a cell for 4 nights, but after, I was so scared because I felt like they had released me to rearrest me and take me to a safe house this time. So you live in kind of hiding, disguise. You can't, it's hard to live a very normal life once you say that, our country deserves better, which is the only message we have. It's crazy how much is being put to suppress that voice. And those 4 days, how were they like? Were there anyone coming to tell you, maybe a police officer, this is happening, maybe we're investigating this is going on? Was there any torture?
I think in Uganda you are luckier killing a person than being opposition. Because the police officers themselves are scared of talking to you. They don't want to be associated or affiliated to you. They don't want to appear like they are helping you. They don't want to engage with you. All these prisoners, people who lost their guns. I was with a gentleman who lost a gun. I was with a gentleman who killed his wife and set them ablaze in their hut in a village.
And you are put in the same...
In the same cell. And these people left before me.
Wow.
So it's crazy. In the cell, and I'm taking you, these are some of the things I remember. They feed 1 meal a day, 5 p.m.
From 5
to 5.
The next day at 5.
If no one brings you anything, if no one looks for you, you are feeding on that meal.
And what is that? Posho and
Posho
beans?
and beans. Yeah, of course, nothing. I don't know why I called it a meal, but we shall go with that.
Hygiene, sanitation-wise?
Of course. I didn't have access to my toothbrush, nothing, for 4 days. You can't brush your teeth because the police officers are distancing themselves. Actually, after they saw my passport, one of them was concerned and he said, "You go with that jacket. You might need it in there." One of the officers. And the mosquitoes in there are crazy. I had bumps all over my arms. I still have the chain things that cut me during arrest. But the officer that said, go with that jacket, you might need it, is on the run as we speak. Because he was, he was.
How dare does he give you
How,
a jacket?
yeah. How does he associate with?
You with it.
So it's sad.
Imagine.
It is difficult. It is really difficult. I think we have a lot of work to do. I think we have a lot of work to do. I don't know if I should say I understand, but I resonate with the people who have become apathetic to seeing change, because it is scary stuff. It is real stuff. And those people who swing their hands on social media and dismiss efforts of opposition, or the Honorable Kyagulanyi, or anyone who seeks a better country, I think they do so out of ignorance.
And just to end with the case, so eventually what did police say after 4 days?
Nothing. Military stores is what I remember.
Military store is closed.
But they sent in a lawyer. Kampala sent in a lawyer, and some comrades. Actually, social media is so good because some comrades who live in Lira saw the post, and they started to come and visit and see me. So it was really, there was some sort of support. I even was so scared after I was released. I was so scared to go to any hotel. I ended up at one of those comrades' homes, and I felt a little bit safer there. But they released me after the lawyer engaged them, and after a lot of discussions, and it was tough. It was not fun. Yeah. But if you ask me whether I would do it again, I would. I would do it again. It gives a realistic view of the struggle.
I mean, personally, I'm still in shock, about what happened, and the fact that they were able to let you go after 4 days. We know that people who are still in incarceration.
Izvake is American.
There are people who are still in incarceration. And this is going to my final submission. I witnessed one day how unprofessional police is. I was coming from WBST, I was still a journalist. You know how coming from the studio and you have your suits and ties and everything on. So tired, I drove home. I was living in Nansana, a very crazy area. And I'm coming out. I parked my car across the road because we didn't have parking at the house. These police officers are running after a thief. Now, when they come, so the thief is coming towards my direction. I stand because I'm in a suit. You get? I'm in a suit. I'm in a tie. I stand. Those guys begin to beat me. They say you are the thief. Why are you not running? I'm like, I just came from. I'm going home. Those guys beat me, tore my shirt, my tie, bundled me on the truck, threw me into the what do you call them? The police thing. Drove me to Nansana police station. I get there. They are off seat. Tells them, but can't you see this person? You don't know this person. You can't see that the person is in a suit and a tie. You're chasing a thief who is a youth. They said he wasn't running. Why wasn't he not running? He said, but he's not a criminal. Why should he run? So they could have killed me innocently. Because you have
many people have.
They put a knee on your neck. They did so many things in that hotel room. They could have done stuff just to get rid and say, you know.
Yeah, they are frustrated, but after engaging them at the police station, many of them really understand the struggle. Even some of the people who arrested me, you can't believe that as you're leaving, they are calling you, why don't you come and say bye to us? Oh, you haven't left us with anything. Can you imagine? The people who arrested you and beat you up, they are begging. They've been turned into beggars. And this was the message I was sending them. Also, I noticed that in the outskirts of Kampala, people don't have as much access to Facebook, social media. So they are cut off. I think that is Museveni's biggest success, successfully cutting off information from reaching people of the villages. Because if that arrest had happened 2 days later or a day later, you wouldn't know. There was no internet right after that day that I was arrested. No one would know, even though the videos are there. I know that there is a lot of proof of election fraud, voter frustration. Our people have been creative in capturing those messages. Now their trouble is relaying them, sending those messages over. And Museveni has been successful. Right now, you can't use social media in Uganda. I've seen, I don't know how accurate it is, I've seen this on social media, that they are planning to arrest people who are using VPN.
Yeah, I was talking to my mom and she was telling me, I have now to call her cell direct. You know, it's really expensive. And she was telling me, I don't want even to use VPN because they're going to arrest. You know, she's one of the person who's... people who are so afraid of, you know.
Yeah, so that's successful curtailing of information.
And incidentally, you see, that scary condition that Ugandans are expressing, the government, I think, thinks it is love. Ugandans are scared that what if I do this and I am abducted? What if I do this and I am killed? What if I do this and... You know, that is the normal life that Ugandans are living.
I mean, that is Rwanda. I've lived in Rwanda for like 3 months. I lived in Rwanda for 4 months. No, 3 months. In Rwanda, you can't say anything about Kagame. You tell a border guy, but why do you think of Kagame? The guy just smiles and goes away. You get, like, no one mentions the word Kagame. They know it is in them that you never talk about Kagame because he's hearing, he's listening. Even when it is night and you're in your bedroom, the birds can pick your word and take it to Kagame. Like they have that mentality in their head. That's why he gets the lift from Museveni. You see, when Museveni had just come, he told people he changes into a cat. And people believed so that, so people feared to actually speak and discuss matters that were apparent to them as individuals or as a country. But they feared that, oh, this pen here, hey, it might be Museveni.
It might be recording us.
Hey, it might be Museveni.
And even now, the levels of paranoia, which is understandable, people are being murdered and slaughtered. But I think we have to work hard and we have to sacrifice and yes, understand the realities will be arrested, beaten, even killed. Once you know that that is the reality of what you're doing, then you do it with what? With one heart.
Passion.
Yeah, you do it with one heart, knowing that yes, I am doing this, but I face these challenges ahead of me. And we are acceptable to those for the betterment of our country. We can't live in fear all our lives. We've already done that for 30 years, 35 years, and some people are thinking 40, which I don't understand. But we need to put an end and do better for Uganda.
I mean, it's unfortunate you were not able to witness the election day itself. You were in prison, just like people like Eddie Mutwe and Nubian Lee must be crying in prison because, you know, your best friend, you worked all this journey together, but you've not been able to stand and see, you know, the election day itself. Just give us a quick picture, you know, as we wind up. You who was in Uganda, when you came out of prison, how is the, you know, how are the people like, you know, how is the hunger for change back in Uganda?
There is, I think there is a lot of passion. There's a lot of, everyone understands that, you know, enough is enough. Even ministers who were disqualified, you've heard them say that, you know, we've been around for a decent amount of time.
26 ministers lost,
yeah,
including the vice president.
And I'm talking about the ones who have come out to concede and say, you know what, we've become too much for Ugandans. It's okay. I wish that Mr. Tibu Habura, which his name
would listen to people like America.
Yeah, but even also listen to himself and listen to Ugandans and step back and push back a little bit. But Ugandans, they see the impunity, you know. Ugandans will tell you that this is a hopeless country. Once they know that you're coming from abroad, they want you to plot for them to leave the country. I have never, there's no Ugandan who has spoken to me. There are very few who have spoken to me and not brought up that topic. How do I leave Uganda? Can you imagine? That is the sense of the reality. So they want change. They are desperate for change, but they are scared. They are frustrated. They are intimidated. They are impoverished. They are very poor. You know, if you don't have any money, some decisions are difficult to make. Some sacrifices are hard to make. You're like, how will my family, you know? You're like, I need to arrest this man to the best so that my bosses understand that I need that salary, okay? So that is the situation. The challenges are many, but also the hope and the hunger. You can feel the hunger walking through Kampala, or even walking into any government office. Not even an office, any business on the street, any, you know, bank. Just walk anywhere, you can feel that sense. A border rider, you can feel that sense. I was talking to a friend who was ripped off, I think, close to $60,000. He bought land, and this was about 3 years ago. And I was talking to him. He knows some wealthy men in Uganda. And he says, this man is driving a Mercedes, you know, a brand new Mercedes in Uganda. But if he's buying from a hawker, and that hawker doesn't give him change of 500 shillings, the man becomes very frustrated. There is that discomfort, that uncertainty. Even though you have so much money in Uganda, you can never feel secure with it. And that is the sense. It is sad, but it is what we are trying to fix and what we hope to fix.
Well, thank you so very much. We have had to drag this show for so long, but we are grateful that we were able to catch you and you're here.
Yeah,
maybe as we leave in 30 seconds, can you bring us to speed with what's happening in the diaspora level? What activities are going on and what are you having that you can leave us with?
Yeah, we are rejuvenating operations in the diaspora. I think people were starting to lay back a little bit, but the struggle is not over. You know, our theme has been a new Uganda, and people are rushing to settle for the old Uganda, which is not what we envisioned. We haven't removed the dictator yet, so we are organizing, and actually today we had a meeting. A very long meeting, one of the reasons I delayed, talking about how to reach out again, but also think about our comrades, having first-hand being having first-hand experience in a cell has made me want us to do some outreach of our comrades who we don't know about. Now, I was lucky that my incarceration was known, but we have many comrades in police cells who we don't know about. So we as a diaspora need and are fully capable. I have full knowledge of the capabilities of the diaspora. And even when I left, I came back and there are more newer volunteers, people doing. Our international relations was here, now it is far up. That's why you're seeing many more tweets, that's why you're seeing many more engagements, and foreign, like, people talking about our plight. It's because of the efforts that these people put in to heighten that. So we have a lot of, so I've spoken about legal, the people who have been detained, but also welfare, their families back home. We want to motivate people to continue doing what? To continue participating in the struggle. So the arrangements are there, the plans are there, and we met today, and we'll be discussing more as we go.
All right. Thank you so very much. I forgot what we're trying to say, but we have run out of time. But thank you so very much. We're looking forward to Monday. The petition is being filed officially from an NUP to the Supreme Court. It's going to be filed today because, time. It had run out of time, but they're saying the deadline is Sunday, and the Supreme Court will receive it today. So on Monday, we are hoping that they will start, they will receive it officially and maybe give a date to start hearing the case.
Yeah, I want to call upon Ugandans. I know that many Ugandans in Uganda do not have access to internet. They don't have access to internet, internet and Facebook and social media where we are right now.
Yeah.
But I want to call upon Ugandans to, at least if you're in the diaspora and you're following, call your person back home and send them these videos. Let them have access to how that case is going. We are hoping that that case engages all Ugandans because the evidence we have is impressive. We are first, before we remove the dictator, we are going to expose the dictator. And so I encourage, it's going to be a very interesting case, a very captivating case, and I encourage everyone to follow very closely.
All right.
They'll be annoyed by the things that government does.
We are expecting a landmark ruling, and we hope it will be a landmark ruling once the case is finally done and all the evidence.
What do you mean by landmark ruling? You people who went to school, what does that mean?
We are being optimistic, very optimistic. But thank you so much, Herman.
But our hope is more. The reason why I'm calling upon people to be engaged is that our court, we are presenting this evidence to that kind of court system, judicial, but our court is the people. We are also presenting it to the people's court. So our faith is not one-fold, it is twofold. Maybe the court, but more the people. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Now that he came late, he wants the show to restart.
No, but thank you so much, all of you who have been watching, and we hope that you've heard from Mr. Herman Aienebyona, who was just returned from Uganda. We bless the Lord that he's well, but there are over 60 plus other people who are still in incarceration all across the country. So we pray that they will all be released unconditionally and that they are safe wherever they are, and that their families do not have to go through a lot of psychosocial and psychological distress about their plight. So thank you so much, and see you again next week. Bye.